Welcome to the Dead Pixel Society podcast, the photo imaging industry's leading news source. Here's your host, Gary Pageau.
The Dead Pixel Society podcast is brought to you by MediaClip, Photo Finale, Advertech Inc., Got Photo, and the IPI Member Network. Hello again, and welcome to the Dead Pixel Society podcast. I'm your host, Gary Pageau, and today we're joined by two people. We're joined by Brad Malcolm, CEO of EyeQ, and Jeff Stevens, the CTO of EyeQ. Good afternoon, gentlemen, and welcome to the show.
Thanks, Gary. Thanks for having us.
Okay, Brad, you've been with the company since its founding in the early 2000s. Can you kind of give us some history on EyeQ, where it started and how it got to be where it is now?
I certainly can. And I know you said to keep the podcast short, so I won't get into too much detail. But yeah, we started back in 2001 with the premise of how does one automatically correct images, but an accurate correction. So we're all about accuracy, where our inventor went to Europe, photographed stained glass windows, came back, and they were dark, manually tried to correct them in Photoshop. Not only was it tedious, but also colors were shifted, and that was wrong. So that was the genesis for our company, which has certainly evolved. We've grown from, in essence, nobody to somebody, and that was all bootstrapped and done that organically. I did a restructure a year and a half ago, and that's where I changed the name to EyeQ Imaging as part of that process, hence the name change from Athentech to EyeQ. But the technology is perfectly clear, which has always been around since the beginning, and that's where we leverage our automatic image correction that we got unique patents on.
So Perfectly Clear is the name that most people know your company by. Can you talk a little bit about the various platforms that Perfectly Clear is in? Because I don't think people realize that it's basically everywhere.
Yeah, well, and that's a good point. So just the overview, Perfectly Clear is intelligent image correction. We license that to, we license that technology to companies around the world. And yes, it can be incorporated. So that's what we do. Where can it be incorporated? Literally anywhere. We are used by some of the largest cell phone companies where we're embedded directly in their camera pipeline. So we run natively on mobile. And we have our engines, which is the core of what we do. So think of us as take our engine and license it into your car. Mm-hmm. Therefore, we can go into servers. We got a server SDK. We can go into desktop software. We can go into your mobile apps. We got native mobile SDKs as well. So the engine can go anywhere. Last year, we launched a web SDK that runs directly in one's web browser. So it's easy to do front-end implementation for one's customers to play with it. And then we also have software for those people that want to double click and install it and just run the software. Mm-hmm. And we also, thirdly, the last area would be the website of things, where we have a web API, so you can sign up for an account, send it to our AWS servers, we process and send it back to you. So we literally are everywhere, which is one of the reasons why we got so many people using us, because there's a solution for wherever you need it. And it's easy and effortless to implement.
Now, Jeff, is it one platform, one core set of technologies that's implemented across various services and devices, or is it tuned for each individual situation?
Yeah, it's one set of source code. It's one set of technology and algorithms that is compiled and bundled into all of those various different things. So regardless if you're using our mobile platform or the web-based SDK, the desktop or server SDK, the image quality coming out is all identical. Sometimes there's tiny differences in like JPEG compression, right. But in the vast majority of our platforms, it's pixel for pixel identical across all of our different offerings.
And users, like in a lab environment, they can tune the results to what they are expecting to produce.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We ship with presets, and we build presets, with our customers over the decades that we've been doing this. Mm-hmm. So we have tuned very good default parameters that are used. Some of our customers, both labs and our licensing embedded customers, use those defaults. Mm-hmm. But yeah, a lot tune them for their specific output devices or types of photography. the indoor wedding shots versus the outdoor wedding shots, whatever it might be. The more you tune and the more you customize, you can often get a better correction, but we also have great looking results for just, any photo that comes through by just using our defaults.
So, because what's important to remember is we have a wide breadth of people using us. So our iAuto 2021, which we just launched, and our prior iAutos, they work great out of the box. But remember, we got studios and professional photography that is slightly different than consumer use cases, where generally a bit poppier and a bit brighter image for the consumer. The pro images are coming in at a different level. And then we also have customers in every country around the world basically using us. So people in Asia have a different preference versus European versus North America. Hence the need for, even though we're automatic, it's tweaking those automatic parameters to achieve an individual end user result.
So let's talk a little bit about iAuto 2021, which has just been launched. You just mentioned it, and it's the next generation, or the new generation of the platform. What is the big enhancement here?
Jeff, do you want to talk about that, or do you want me to talk about that?
Go for it, Brad. Take it away.
Okay, well, it's iAuto 2021 because everyone's looking forward to 2021, and we're launching at the end of the year, so that's hence the name of it. But yeah, we're continually innovating and improving. That's what we do, taking our patented technology. How do we make it better? Yeah. What are the needs of our customers? So what we've specifically included on this one, based upon feedback, is a new approach to sharpening. So images are much crisper, and we spent a lot of time optimizing this for prints as well, because print and screen is different. So you're going to get crisper, sharper images.
Okay. Secondly,
we've added in what we call our super contrast, which is really important, again, for print and on screen. More depth in the photo, images really pop. They're sharper, but there's a lot more pop to them as well, hence why we call it super contrast, right. Whether it be with faces or whether it be with landscapes, more depth in background, foreground. Picture's worth 1,000 words, so you really have to see it to actually see what it does.
Right.
The third thing is what we call skin tone optimization. And there's multiple facets to this, but one is skin tones often come out printed or on screen too red. Multiple reasons for that. Some printers, good printers out there, but as they get more and more wider color spectrum, then the downfall is skin tones are too red that they print. Also, cameras capture infrared light, but a human eye doesn't see it, and then that's another reason why skin tones are often too red or too orange. And so having the ability to both tweak that, but automatically building that in, because we got North American, we got African American, we got people from all the different places, so from Asia, right. From Europe, and the ability to tune that. So the skin tone aspect is also a key one. We also, Jeff and his team has built in AI clip art detection. If it's not a real photo, detect it and skip it. And
yeah, actually I saw that on the thing. I thought that was actually kind of cool, because that is sort of when you get the integration of stickers and clip art with some of the images that people are capturing these days, that is probably a big challenge when you got Pikachu in the corner and you've got the main subject, and that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and what we're asked for in today's world is just automatically save me time, get me the best images as possible. And there's a lot of different things thrown into that. So we need to be able to do an accurate correction, but only do it when necessary, and know what type of images need it and what don't. So that's all part of becoming the smartest and continuing to be the smartest that AI and that in reality one can be.
So does North America present a greater challenge in terms of skin tones because of the diverse population? And what kind of regional differences do you see around the world? Jeff, we had talked earlier about you've actually got an Asian version of the iAuto product.
Yeah, so there are two aspects of that. Of course, there's the different range of skin tones that people have. So in different geographies, different populations, with different depths and color of skin. So the people are actually different. But then preferences are as well. So what we try to do is have the best looking correction by default, but then also allow our customers in different regions to quickly swap out, presets or algorithm tuning for regional preferences. So the people might be the same in different geographies, but preferences can vary from place to place. So you have to be flexible for both things, both the people in the photos and the people looking at the photos.
So, and this is something that your customers around the world can control, right?
Yeah, exactly. And we've spent a lot of time tuning that with our big licensing customers and our lab and printer customers as well. Make sure they get the best result for the viewers that will be seeing the end product.
EyeQ has really been known for being a pioneer in the image correction business, and I think everyone can agree, great looking pictures are something that everyone wants, but what's the business case for improving your pictures? Is it just to improve customer satisfaction, or are there tangible rewards to the bottom line for having better pictures?
Well, Gary, there's lots of tangible rewards, and it's not just about better pictures, although that's certainly a key component of it. It depends on each customer, which is different. But to answer that question a bit more granular, one, we know, we got studies from a better image is going to help encourage more prints. One of our customers, you can go to our website, read it, Norwegian Cruise Lines, where they increase their revenue by images look better. Customers are going to be more likely to print, and they're going to choose more. So whether they choose an order or not choose an order, or make a larger order, that's a way to monetize. Also in canvases, or an item where we see a large dollar value per image, we've seen people and had this discussion with executives where if it doesn't look ideal on screen, one is less likely to order. I've also been at Costco kiosks where this is, I kid you not, a real story. The couple next to me was ordering, and the wife wanted 50 pictures of her child, and the husband was saying, I don't think we should, because their face is dark, we can't see her. Why should we print this? And if they don't know that can be looked better, then they're not going to print it. So people are losing out. So helping to print more to increase revenue is certainly a key and important tangible benefit that we've been able to accomplish. Another thing, and we're seeing this a lot more in Pro Labs over time with COVID, but even non-Pro Labs, just saving time. We know images, people expect the best, expect labs, printers to just do a better job, but doing that manually is expensive, and it's also not the best value add. So doing that automatic is a time saving time, saves money. So that's why there's a big aspect to that, and especially with some automation in theme parks, and as people get worried about COVID and reducing touch points, automating more and more of that process we're seeing more of that come to more of a forefront. And there's also the benefit of increasing customer satisfaction. Obviously, reprints, there's somebody prints, they order, if you got to reprint it, there's a cost, but there's also the intangible cost of my photo came out looking bad. It's one thing if a photo looks dark or is blurry or not sharp or not as vibrant, but it's another thing if it's the whole photo book, because that cost to reprint is more expensive. And just wowing the customer.
One of the things that we used to find back in the days of, doing marketing research for the industry is consumers are pretty hard on themselves when they consider their own photographic expertise. And in most cases, if a picture was substandard, they often blame themselves that they did something wrong, right? So, and it was always a disincentive to be involved with a photographer, especially back in the film days, right? Because back then there wasn't the amount of correction that's happening right now automatically. So I think there is a valuable lesson there, and that, if you've just increased customer satisfaction, you're going to get more of that behavior, right?
Absolutely. Also putting us on the front end to wow the customer is important, because now you're giving the customer, wowing them with options, whether it be creative filters, whether it be perfect selfie, whether it be perfect landscape, for sure.
So we've touched on something about better pictures, but there's sort of an interesting dynamic there between realistic pictures, like what things that accurately capture the scene, and what a consumer may think is a better picture, right? Because you've got all these filters and enhancements and whatnot that are kind of the what's in vogue now, right? There's HDR and all these other filters and enhancements you can put to a photo. And so, Jeff, how do you balance that, realistic versus better?
Yeah, it's a good question. And obviously, whatever the customer likes most is the right answer. But what we try to do is provide corrections that look as realistic as possible. And that in itself is a challenge. Obviously, what you see with your eye when you're out walking around, you're on vacation, standing on the beach, that is reality. Your eye is perceiving the scene as it is. But if you snap it with your, cell phone, there's processing that's going on automatically. So the first image you see of it is already highly processed. So people are getting tuned to think that real is the first digital version that they saw instead of the first mental image that they saw, which might have HDR or lots of contrast, lots of saturation. So there is a trend sort of industry wide, I believe, of higher contrast, more saturation, a little more pop, even in images that aren't advertised as being retouched, just like straight out of the box. It needs to be more vivid, more pop, more impact. Mm-hmm. And then we also have the tools to do the creative effects on top of that.
Sure.
It's always one of those things where our customers have to strike that balance, or make it an option for their customers so they can opt in for the HDR effect, the even more boosted saturation or contrast, those kinds of things.
Gary, one thing I'd like to add, and it's an important point because people do ask that, and there's a lot of confusion on that. I mean, our patents dictate this, and it's been at our heart from the beginning, and that's the reason why we have a trademark called real color photography. So we do image correction, and that's why we've always said correction versus enhancement. There's camera limitations. That's why an image is noisy. That's why it's dark. That's why it's not as sharp as you remember. The camera still, despite them getting better and better and more lenses, it still can't replicate the human eye. And so we've always been about a realistic image. That's why everyone else does enhancements, but we do real color photography. We're the only solution that can deliver that. We got lots of science as to why, but it replicates the way the human eye works, and we were the first one to do that. And we break those into different things. So obviously, color of a leaf as you see it with your eye should be corrected to the same correct color, even if it's dark. Now, we do have beautify technology, and beautify, though, has been given a bad name by companies that do beautify, that artificially smooth an image, add in makeup, and that's fine, and that can serve a purpose. There's some interesting AR stuff being done for makeup companies. But with our beautify, we got the two modes. We got our accurate beautify, which smooths or eliminates dark circles into your eyes and makes you look brighter, so you look more rested. Everyone wants to look at that. Sure, we can slim a face and we can whiten your teeth, and we can do those things as well. That's at the discretion of the user, because people do want to look their best. And so we have our realistic, we give you the ability to look your best, and we have your creativity. But everything we do at our core is about an accurate correction. It always has been and always will be. And that's, again, something that's unique.
Yeah, because I think that is one of the things, if you spend some time in the social media world, there is a crazy amount of correction that goes on where, they take a reasonably attractive person and they turn them into something that looks like a mask, in some ways, where it's overdone. And I'm not sure who that's serving, but it certainly is interesting.
Well, there's a creative, people like to be creative as well.
Sure.
And that's why in our 3 buckets we added in a couple of years ago, we call them creative looks. So it's right when Photoshop introduced looks. And so you see lots of other companies now adding, just naming it different, but the creative look side. And we did that because, again, adding a full package, customers do like to play. They do like to have a retro look. They do like to have some, different funky colors and than film stock. So yeah, we got stuff that replicates old film stocks and all that old era. So for those customers that want to license that, build it in, we've been told, yeah, they're better than Instagram filters. It's just part of the complete package. People do like being creative. Millennials love playing with that. Nothing wrong with that. But that's different than the correction side to just, I don't want to look dark. I want to see my daughter's face. Don't want to have red eye. Want the sky to look bright. I want to remember that memory as I was when I was outside.
Sure. That is interesting. This has been a dynamic that people have been talking about for years, as we talked before we started about, back in the day, Kodak was known as, their big thing was realistic color as you saw it, right? That was sort of their hallmark. And then when Fuji came into North America, they came in with their poppy colors. They were, very saturated greens and reds. And they really took a big share of the market because people like the saturated colors, even though they will tell you, customers will say, no, I want an accurate color. I want it to be just as it was. But then when you show them side by side, they almost always pick the saturated color. So it's one of those things where customers will tell you one thing and do another. That's for sure.
Well, and there's also interesting in the market, when Jeff alluded to that as well, more and more pictures, as we know, are all being taken on cell phones, and cell phones have a tendency to over saturate the image, make it extra bright, make it extra poppy. So people get used to that look, and they're used to their images looking that way. Now, when they send those for print on a CMYK additive model, they don't come back as bright or the same look that they're used to seeing digitally on their phones.
Right.
And that's why we've been working on with many of our customers on narrowing that gap. Here's how you can set those expectations and make your images brighter and more colorful to achieve that expectation.
Mm-hmm. And the one other sort of avenue down that is who took the photo and who's doing the correcting. We have customers that are photographers, so they are the creative director. They're making all of the aesthetic choices themselves. But most of our customers are businesses that are correcting the images on behalf of the photographer.
Right.
So for that use case, realistic or it takes away some of the creative license, but the goal for the best looking photo is the thing that crosses both of those use cases. So it's the automatic correction, but who's making the aesthetic judgment versus the creative, the ability to decide whether to apply one of those filters or not.
So what is the path that EyeQ is on? Where do you take this technology next? Because as I think most people would agree, it's pretty darn good right now. I mean, we'll see what the reception to the iAuto 2021 technology is, but I think you've already had some people accepting it right away. So what is sort of the next generation or the next implementation we're going to see of the accurate color correction technology?
Well, the high level is basically people expect, hey, I'm going to toss everything, including the kitchen sink at you, and you toss it back to us without us having to do anything. So pro photo, consumer photo, indoor, outdoor, wedding, everything, just automatically remove all the manual intervention and make that to do your best that you can. Always better, never worse. Really aggressive in some times, but not aggressive in other times. So just continually to get smarter. So there's the high level. And Jeff, I don't know if you want to talk a bit about some of the bit more specifics on what you and the team are working on as it comes to AI and non-AI stuff.
Yeah, one of the things that we're looking at now is, so we've been doing auto correction where we look at an image and the only information we have is the pixels in that image. And so we take that image and we make it as good as we can based on only that information. And now we're trying to get a little smarter and say, okay, where is this going to end up? Is it on, an indigo press? Is it inkjet? Is it on a screen? Is it a 2-inch tall print in a yearbook? Is it a 36-inch tall wall print? All of those influence what the, quote unquote best output image is.
Yeah.
You consume a 2-inch image in a yearbook differently than you do wall art. So
Right.
you probably have different desires about those image characteristics. So
But this has
we're
got to be
gaining
kind of a
more-
huge challenge, because I remember back in the day when, X-Rite and folks like that, were big on color managing monitors, right? So now you're kind of doing that, not color management per se, but you're correcting color without any really reference to the monitor or the screen quality that's actually being used. That's kind of
exactly right. It's soft proofing was the quote easy part of the problem, and it's a very hard problem. So the thing that we're trying to tackle is not just the output gamut of the device that it's going to be printed on, but those psychoperceptual. This is wall art. It should feel like something.
Right.
Or it's a yearbook photo. The most important characteristic of his yearbook photo is that it looks similar in density and tone and color to the photos around it.
Right.
So you're not optimizing the individual photo, you're optimizing the page of photos.
Right.
So we're expanding the scope of what a good photo looks like. It's not just the best looking photo, but it's the best looking photo consumed in whatever means it's going to be consumed in, on
So
screen.
it's almost
it's a
contextual sort of consideration, right? You gotta think of it in the context in which it's going to be seen.
Yeah, and how close to the image are you going to be, which tells you how sharp or blur radius. If you're looking at it on a photo book, it's different than looking at wall art. You're farther away, it's much bigger. So not just things like DPI matter in output sizing, but also how you process the image and some of those image corrections. So it's gaining knowledge about the output side, what hardware, what's the intent. The on-screen versus on-print is a huge problem, just like you alluded to. Not every monitor is calibrated. I would say most aren't. And then with mobile devices, now they have like the blue shift modes at night where it goes kind of amber. A person, browsing through a photo catalog then is going to have a very different experience than doing it, outside in natural light.
Right.
So how do you preview an image accurately? Taking into considerations things like noise, sharpness, knowing how it's going to be output. It's a big problem. And those are some of the things that we worked on for this release and also going forward.
And Gary, I guess from a business side, a couple of things. I mean, one, we work closely with our customers, listen to them, and that's how we develop the new things. So the iAuto 2021, we worked with based upon what our customers wanted to see. So although we've never raised $2 billion like our Quibi company, we've been around a long time, and we're going to continue to be around a long time. And we're in touch with that aspect. But people rely on us because we do image correction. Absolutely, we're the leaders in that field. But anything image related, we're here to support our customer needs. So better images, people rely on that for cost savings, for consistent output, helping increase revenue, but also other imaging needs. And you've seen several things being launched on that side on just imaging services. If you got low images and you need them high res, we support that. For our background balancing, which is unique to school yearbook, making backgrounds consistent, which is also a cost saving, but a need in there from face cropping. So supporting that whole imaging ecosystem is certainly one area as we go down the path to continue to be the leaders in that field and be able to support the needs of our customers and future customers. So obviously in that videos is an interesting topic of conversation.
Right. I was going to ask you about that.
You're a genius. Should we support video? Do you have a need to support video? Obviously, we'd love to hear from your listeners if what their thoughts are, whether they have a need for that. We're talking to people. I do believe that, and we've been told on the mobile side, as we see more rollout of 5G, that with the faster speeds, people will most likely be shooting more video with that. What does that mean? And so video is an interesting topic.
Yeah, and it's, and if you don't have some sort of monetization on the back end for the customer, right? So how does a customer get the ROI in that investment, right? I mean, I can certainly see if it's an advertising driven platform like a TikTok or something like that, but for every somebody shooting video on their phone of their kid's birthday party, and there's no prints involved, right? So what is the monetization aspect of that? So maybe, like you said, maybe we'll have some listeners chime in, send us an email or something to give us some input on that. That would be a great source of information, I think.
Yeah, we'd love to hear that, and because that's helpful as we formulate our path forward.
Mm-hmm.
And just knowing a lot more about the info as well. We get people that want to know that. Obviously, we do image analysis in
Mm-hmm.
order to do our automatic correction, but there's a lot more down the road that
Mm-hmm.
as we apply our AI models that Jeff and team is building, that
Mm-hmm.
we can be able to reveal to our customers more info about it, whether it be a landscape, whether it be a portrait, a wedding, a baby, etc.
Yeah,
Which then one can enable that for, sorry to interrupt, Gary, for things like auto gift curation or
sure.
othering needs.
Yeah, because as you look at things like AI sort of encroaching into many areas of technology in terms of servicing the end user, I think it's very interesting when you consider things like, when you're doing image enhancement, if not only are you looking at the pixels and the color and the whatnot, but you're also looking perhaps at the context in which the pictures are taking, that, oh, this is a wedding and this is a wedding dress. So maybe we'll do something a little different than we would if we just looked at something that was just large and white in a picture.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's part of the gaining more knowledge of than just the pixels themselves. But what was the intent of the photo? What's in it? What do you think the intent was? Yeah, the wedding dress is a great example. Oh, and then also 10 pictures of the same wedding dress. Those all need to look similar because they're all going to be printed in the same album, or in the same collage on a wall. So it's just expanding that realm of data that we have available while we're processing the image. Is it a night scene with a wedding dress in it? And then how does that affect the intent of the photographer and how the photo is going to be used? Ultimately, we invent tools that help make our customers money. So until we know the business case behind, like video, for example, there's not an obvious monetization path for a lot of our customers that are printers. So we're staying in that world of, how do we make the photos better by learning more about them and what we can use that knowledge for.
So
automatic. Sorry, Gary. Go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
I was just saying, we know there's a lot of discussion and good stuff happening, both by third companies and by companies internally for auto photo book curation and other stuff. So you want to do that as smart and as efficient as possible. You mentioned white earlier, but obviously putting white snow, which we got a lot of that in Canada right now, white sand, which is a lot of that in the Caribbean. So those should be different pages, probably not next to each other, versus a white in a wedding dress. So just being smarter about what's in an image.
Right.
I don't think anything new on that, but it's important to remember.
Yeah, because I think that is one of the things I think that's going to be driving a lot of technology going forward, is more information related to the context of whatever it is you're dealing with, whether it's, like in Spotify, right? They know what songs you listen to, so they're going to suggest similar songs from other people, so they have more context. When you're shopping on Amazon, they know what you shopped in, they know what you click on, so they're going to suggest other things for you. So because they have more information. So I think photography is going to go that way. I think where you're going to have auto curation of content, auto correction of content based on what's in the picture, as opposed to just looking at, like you said, the bare pixels and, the color gamut and all that cool stuff.
Yeah. And auto determining of, aesthetic judgment. One customer printed these kinds of images versus these kinds of images. Okay. They like more poppy, high dynamic range,
right?
More saturated, or this customer's catalog looks, more like rustic and, or whatever it is. Yeah, that's exactly right. Learn from not just the single image, but a whole corpus of images. Which ones are successful? Which ones are printed? How does that differ from the population at large? There's a lot of neat things that we're looking at there.
That's pretty cool. Actually, I hadn't really thought about that, but you could like almost assess a photographer's style, right? Based on that's pretty cool.
Sorry to cut you off. There's a whole notion in the AI imaging world called style transfer, and that's not something that we're eagerly working on right now. But yeah, you can say, here's Ansel Adams style, and then go apply that to a modern photograph or something along those lines. But yeah, there's a lot of interesting things there about understanding just more about the context, like you said, or not just the individual photo, but the individual photo in a collection, in a whole body of work over decades, and what do you do with that added knowledge?
Well, I guess what I'm thinking of is, you could even go to the standpoint of, let's say you're an established wedding photographer. You could actually look at what are your more successful images, right? Let's say you shoot 100 weddings a year, and for a couple of years, you're going to have, through an AI bot or a dashboard or something, actually a representation of this style of photo sells better than others, right?
Yeah, and that's a super tricky thing to actually determine, because the headshot of the bride is always going to sell. And do you actually A/B test like a slightly different style and do that consistently? So it's a complicated thing to discern. Obviously, any kind of big data problem takes big data. It takes hundreds of millions of photos to garner that insight. But yeah, as more and more images go online, more and more consumption, how do you choose what was the most popular? Is it what was purchased? How do you know how it was reused after that point? There's lots of interesting research that can happen down that path.
Yeah, and even like, it may be popular, it may have been shared a lot, but the photographer didn't make much money off of it.
Exactly. So at the end of the day, what's profitable? Are you saving money, or are you making more money?
That's interesting. So if I was a potential customer of iAuto 2021, where would I go for more information?
You can go to our website, iaq.photos, and we have a landing page on there that talks about iAuto. Just reach out at sales. You can reach out through the website to contact us, sales@iq.photos.com. Definitely respond. You can even pick up the phone and call us.
What? That's crazy.
Absolutely.
It's very 20th century, Brad. Come on.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. And I hope to touch base with you soon, and have a great week.
Well, likewise, Gary. And it's always a pleasure being part of what you do, and keep up the good work on having good conversation from the whole digital output film community. It's important what you do to keep it alive. So thanks for your efforts.
Okay. Good to talk to you too, Jeff.
Cheers. Thanks, Gary.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Dead Pixel Society podcast. Read more great stories and sign up for the newsletter at www.thedeadpixelssociety.com.